my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. But for those of you who are returning or who are just popping up, you might actually recognise me, or you might have actually found me from this video. And this has actually been my most successful video, and I'm actually really quite proud of it because of how well it's done, and just because of the amount of comments I've gotten below that video just asking for advice or just my opinion on things regarding whether you should take politics for an A-level, which was kind of the idea of the video. It was kind of like, what's it like, which is the title of it, and kind of what sort of things does it involve. Now this video is a sort of sequel to that, and it is how I revise A-level politics. This is of course more relevant to you if you have actually chosen to take A-level or AS politics. If you haven't, then welcome, and thank you for viewing the video, but this isn't necessarily going to be the most helpful thing, but it might be quite entertaining, you never know. I must say that I'm actually quite pleased that this was definitely a requested video, as you can see from these comments here, and that honestly does make me very happy, because it means that, you know, it's going to be answering hopefully most of those questions. For most of those comments I've had to put so far oh yeah, I'm planning to make that sort of video, or I'll make that video soon. So, you know, to sort of appease the people asking, because I do try to help, I have just sort of written down below. But so apologies if you're one of those people and this is just, you know, sort of me reiterating what I might have already put. But you know, put it this way, it's me reinforcing that I still use these methods, and these this is the way I revise, and I'm not just appeasing you with a load of fluff. It's not copy and pasted, it is how I actually revise. I'm just going to say that A-level politics consists of 3 exams, and they're each equal in weight. They're each worth a third of the qualification each, and they are 2 hours each, maybe 2 hours 15. I shall put a little annotation. And yeah, they're all written, they're all essay based, so the whole, you know, all of these revision methods are relevant to all of the exams. And just heads up, if you're doing the AS politics, then that's just 2 exams, but the methods still apply. First up are my example essay arguments. These, as you can see, are flashcards. I actually took the ring off of another set because I often find that the sets that come with these sort of rings, they tend to have lines on the front and then blank on the back, whereas I like having lines on both sides. Now, I've been making these in the last couple of weeks, so I've just found them really useful, especially since I'm now in 2nd year, so we're going over more sort of essay-based stuff, and I'm trying to get myself to just not necessarily write as many essays because I haven't got the time, because I've got other stuff going on, but also just to get into that mindset where sometimes the planning is just as important as the actual writing, because you can write a really good essay, but it's the points that you need to refer to. So the way I've actually done these, so here's the title card. It's a title card, and then turn them over, and you can see that here I've written a question. This one is: evaluate the view that representative democracy is superior to direct democracy in the UK. I got the question for this out of the Hodder My Revision Notes, AS Politics. It's for UK government and UK politics, so it's the paper 1 and 2. And I just, you know, I took it out of that because that's published on the exam board, and generally it's the wording of the question that's the most helpful thing, because these actually help me get used to the wording of the question and how to approach it, because sometimes the wording of the question can trip people up. I'm sure sometimes it's tripped me up before, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. So it's always good to just, what is the question actually, what does it actually want you to do? So in this case, so the reason it's got pink is just because there's 4 topics in each of the papers, for the paper 1 and 2 that is, and the pink is just to differentiate the topics. That's as simple as that, because while they're in a bundle here, I can just easily see that that's paper 1, topic 1, which I have written at the top as well. So on the back of the card, as you can see, it's just a grid, which is exactly how I plan my essays for history and politics, but obviously here we're looking at politics. So you've got representative democracy on one side and then direct democracy on the other, because the question itself is arguing that representative democracy is superior. So representative is on that side because that is the thing, that's the given factor, that's the thing that the question is arguing or wants you to sort of stem from. So it's always good to have a look at that first, like, is it superior? You can of course use your own judgments in this. They won't penalise you for whatever you think. You might think that one is better than the other. You are meant to reach a judgment, so you might think that representative democracy is better than direct democracy, or vice versa. It's your opinion. As long as you argue it well and put the points, you'll be fine. Speaking of the points, that is the only thing I've actually gotten written here. I haven't written the examples purely because the cards are only so big, and generally when revising, although I'm sure it's good to revise examples as well, I don't tend to struggle with that. I think for me personally, it's better to just get the points under wraps. So the second thing is to use mind maps, or more specifically to make mind maps and then use them. Mind maps I find are really good for summarising topics. So as you can see here, this is summarising the role and importance of the opposition. I actually made this while doing a study with me. So I use the revision guide. You don't always have to, I'm sure your teacher can supply you with things like course guides and various things, or you might just be able to use mind maps. Like, some people find it useful to just go off memory, like what's inside your brain, and that's a good revision technique as well. But in this case, I must admit, I did use the revision guide, which is also where I got the titles from. Now, I just find it really useful to just have a big title and then all the information around the side. It means that when I want to refer to this, it's just in one place. That's where I find that for some things, mind maps can be superior to revision cards, but each to their own. I don't think I really have to explain much about mind maps. Obviously, this specific one is about like this specific topic, and obviously you can use them for like the overarching topics as a whole, like what's everything in paper 1 topic 1 or paper 1 topic 2, or you can go in the smaller topics and things. But I just find them very useful, and more often than not I will have them on display. Obviously this one is in a notebook. Coming up next is essay plans. Love them or hate them, you are going to have to do essays and essay plans for your final exam, so you might as well get used to them. Sooner the better. So I will actually make another video on my specific strategy for essay plans, and the reason I tend to use these colours. Generally it doesn't matter what colour you use, but I will go into my kind of thought process about it in another video. But for now, just essay plans. So as you can see, this is from one of the papers. I can't remember if it was a sample paper or a past paper, one of the two. And I did actually, so far I've only planned one of them, but I shall be doing this at another point. But generally it gets you used to how the questions are worded and how you can pick apart them. And also it means that, so you saw my cards just now before the mind maps, but here I've actually included examples. So this is a more in-depth plan, and because it's focusing on one key question, and this isn't going to be necessarily a quick revision thing, this is more about skills and technique rather than knowledge, which is what I arguably the cards are for, because I'm going to refer to the cards probably more than I'll refer to this. This will probably go back there, but it does mean that I can just get used to what arguments match up with each other. For example, I've got, so this is also about party leaders, funnily enough. A good leader is able to unite the party, and then the example I've got is like Thatcher when she eliminated the Wets from the Tory party. And then other factors for political party success, the wider political context can often unite or divide the party. For example, in 2019 the Tories were mostly united behind like Brexit and get Brexit done. And as I said in my original like what's A-level politics like video, you don't, examples wise I'm sure there's loads you can use, but I just use those examples because they were the most sort of obvious in my opinion. And equally it doesn't have to be like matching up a conservative like example with another conservative example. That was just happenstance. I do find that the actual planning them is very useful, and if you want to know where to find them, you just go onto the exam board website, look up, and it should be in the example assessments or sample papers, things like that, and it will be there. Equally, you don't have to just plan like proper like these ones. There will be some in your revision guides. I'm sure your teacher can probably provide you with a list of some, or if not, if anyone's really itching for it down below, I can comment down some. If you're unable to find any, or if your teacher's unable to give you any, or if you just want a kind of specific one, that I can just find and give you. I'm very happy to do that. And another way I revise politics is keyword flashcards. These are for paper 1 and 2, and the way I made these was by, again, looking at the exam board website, and on the specification, if you scroll down, so I'm on the Pearson specification, but I'm sure that's a similar case for AQA and other, but I'm on the Pearson specification, so I went onto the spec, scrolled down, and there was a glossary. There's a glossary for paper 1, 2 and 3, the entire course, and I literally just went through the glossary and made these. So if we start off with paper 1, if I just unclip it, so on the front I literally just have the name of the paper and the fact that it's paper 1 and then key terms. I'm not really too fussed about like how my notes look, as long as they're like effective. So first card here, these are shuffled because that, you know, I've already used these more than any other revision card I've made for A-level, because in politics definitions are very important, and it just gives the examiner and the marker an idea that you know what you're talking about and the fact that you've actually understood it. They want to give you marks, so help them give you marks. So legitimacy is the first card that happens to come up, and I must admit for these were probably like the first kind of revision cards I made for A-level, and the problem with these, they're not faultless. Everything has got a fault. Okay, most things have got a fault. I don't want to be too pessimistic. That is way too much of a definition for me to just learn. It is the correct definition. It's the definition given by the exam board, but I think if I were to make these now, I'd try and make that a bit more concise rather than just copying out what is said on the specification in the glossary. So one piece of advice I would give you is put it into your own words. So I reckon if we flip over to paper 2, I should hope that it isn't as bad. Not that that is necessarily bad, it's just quite wordy if I was to like try and learn it. And also, one thing I would say with these is try and get other people to test you. So these are paper 2, and actually just to point out why you think, like, you might think I've got really short or small revision cards, I just cut them in half because obviously that makes more of them, and it means that given that one side of the card is only going to be consisting of like one word, maybe like 2 words or a phrase, this part's going to seem really empty and blank, and equally the definition shouldn't take up too much space, as is the case here. So this is a constitution. What is a constitution? There's a simple definition. I think this might have been the definition from the exam board and it just happened to be smaller, but it should be sort of that length maximum. Something like, if you know, you should try and define it in a couple of words. So unentrenched, and there we are. And then this one just happens to have an example, and it's the UK. And so on and so forth. These I would recommend just go through, and it means that you can help learn all your keywords. And equally, if you're revising with a friend who is also doing A-level politics or AS politics, or yeah, you know, you can help each other, and whoever's quizzing means that they have to sort of refresh their mind and like, oh, did I get that right? But then also if they're quizzing you, it means that you're going to be tested and you can chop and change. And yeah, so parliamentary sovereignty, again, that's a bit long, so really I should just kind of make up my own sort of phrase for it. So essentially, Parliament has the power. And just a heads up, you can make your revision cards on like Quizlet and everything, and it would be exactly the same. It's just absolutely fine. Don't worry if you prefer to use digital media, but just a heads up, if you were like doing other forms of revision, for example, timed essays, I would recommend doing them handwritten, because chances are that's how your exam's going to be. And finally, as far as my revision methods for A-level politics goes, I don't have anything to hand because it's digital, it's Seneca Learning. Now, when I say I don't have anything to hand, that's not strictly true, because when I do Seneca, I do try to make notes on it. For example, this right here is actually made from the notes I made for Seneca Learning, and it's the evolution of the UK Constitution. So it includes the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, and then what's like the sources of the UK Constitution today. So statutes, common law, and as well as treaties. And because this was actually made digitally, it does have the advantage of having pictures, although this specific topic probably doesn't need too many graphics. I think I've just got a portrait of the Magna Carta and William and Mary, which bit irrelevant, but makes it look nicer since it's on my wall. On Seneca Learning, I would just recommend, so if you've ever used it before, then you'll know that like every now and then when you're doing the quizzes and things, it'll come up with the little blocks of information. Basically, you make notes out of that. It's already in note form, but then if you can condense it further, then that's great. If not, then they're just really like good, short, and it means that you can just sort of have a refresher on that subject quite nice and simply. Now, I wouldn't recommend using Seneca Learning exclusively, but you can combine it with all my other methods that you've already seen in this video. Now, just I'm going to say about Seneca, it's the way I actually revised politics while I was on holiday. So I went on holiday to the Isle of Wight this year, and I didn't really need or want to take too much with me, but I did just bring a notebook, I had my phone, so I was just making notes from the stuff on Seneca, and that is actually what that comprised of. So I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope it was a worthy sequel, although you know what they usually say about sequels. Either way, please do check out my other content and see if it's just as good. Personally, I am still relatively happy with my original politics video, but I feel like it could be better, which I think happens with anything we create, but I think I have done better recently, so do check them out if you're actually interested. And if not, please comment down below, and if you need any other advice, or if you just have any other questions that you're you've got a burning desire to find out about. These can be about the topic, these are about college in general. To a certain extent, there can be personal questions. Goodbye and good luck, and see you next time.